Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show, Gary's back and we're going to be catching up on some of the tech innovations he's been playing with recently, lots of home automation stuff. I'm going to be talking about some of my sound pack and tutorials, videos that I've been working on, including one for a real basic one of Synth. It's one of my favourites. So lots to talk to, so let's get straight to Gary.
Gary, good evening, welcome back.
Good evening, good to be back. I've thoroughly been enjoying all the shows you've been putting out there. The music stuff's really interesting. And some great guests you've had in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I've had some interesting guests in the last few weeks. Yeah, especially enjoyed chatting with Dan Phillips from Korg USA on the show last week, talking about that new PS-3300 with the 138 oscillators.
Yeah, amazing sounding device. I was listening to that in the car yesterday. That was an amazing show. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was always great to get Dan on the show, and I always appreciate him. And we've got more from Korg coming later this year, I think. So we're getting nearly into that festive season now, where everything starts to wind down. I see people putting decorations up and things. I think, you can't. My rule, no Christmas stuff until into December. But people don't care nowadays. They go earlier and earlier, I think. Yeah, not what I do. Everything has to wait to December. We've got some interesting things to talk about. I can do an update on some of the stuff that I've been working on, but I really wanted to find out what you've been playing with, some of the gadgets and devices you've been playing with over the last few weeks.
Well, I've been doing quite a bit. I don't know if I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when I was on that I was actually laying underfloor heating.
Yes,
it's been quite fun. So I've got that all in, and that's working quite nicely with the thermostats. I am thinking about changing the thermostats because they're on Tuya Wi-Fi at the moment, and that's a little bit problematic on integration with some other tools because Tuya actually forces a re-authentication every so many days. So you can't suddenly find it, everything stops working. And you have to go back into a Home Assistant, re-authenticate it, which is not the easiest way to do it. So either I'm going to have to do the automations to Tuya itself, or I'm going to find a different alternative. I'm going to go for some sort of Zigbee thing. I mean, I'm sure I can sell these thermostats on eBay if I need to. So just replace them with the Zigbee variants of them. But I mean, other than that, they're really good. They work really well. They work well with the underfloor heating. Interesting, the underfloor heating, you have a temperature probe which you actually put underneath the floor, and there's also a thermostat built into the guide, and you have to sort of balance the two. So if you want the floor to warm up, and so sometimes the floor, because wooden floors particularly are really cold, and a thick wooden floor takes a long time to warm up. It takes a long time to cool down as well, which is quite nice. So once you get it warmed up, it's quite nice. But a thin floor warms up really quickly, and you have to get balance right. And all of these things actually, if they're suitable for underfloor heating, will quote you a maximum surface temperature. But that's the interesting thing. It's the surface temperature, not the temperature of the probe underneath. And you have to kind of work out how long, if the temperature on the probe gets underneath here to say 30 degrees, how long is it going to take for the top to warm up to 30 and then going to turn up? And there's a lot of sort of algorithms around that, which I've been doing some bits and pieces. I've actually been getting some of my local AI stuff to actually help me out with that. But that actually doesn't match, obviously, to what's in the room temperature. And the room temperature may be at a quite nice, toasty 22, 23 degrees, but the floor can still be cold. So you don't want to control it on the the room temperatures. But most of these thermostats actually have an option to say turn off the room temperature thermostat and just use the floor one as the controlled one, and then you can set what you want the floor one to be. And I've worked out on one of my floors, it's almost exactly the transmission is really quick because it's a very thin floor, so it only takes a couple of seconds to get. So if you get to 26 degrees on the probe temperature, within a minute you're going to be at 26 degrees on the surface, so you can use that to control it and limit it to 27 degrees, which is what the limit it should be. Whereas the other one, I have to get it up to 35 degrees on the probe, and then about an hour later it will be at the right temperature on the floor because it's such a thick floor. So and that's not the most economical way of running heating, and I certainly wouldn't recommend that for heating a room if you've got that thicker floor and you're trying to get it through, because it's going to cost them an absolute fortune to heat up, because it'd probably take you 3 or 4 hours to heat the room that way. And it would cool off pretty quickly as well, because once the floor cools off, it cools off. Although the thicker floor does last a bit longer.
Yes.
It's interesting.
You
It's
could
interesting.
change the heat, yeah.
All this stuff you don't really think about, but that's actually for us. That's not at the point. The whole point of the floor wasn't really to heat the room. It was just to have nice cozy toes when you get up in the morning and you're off to the bathroom, or you're going downstairs to the kitchen to make a cup of tea. So we've got I've got a kind of like a path of electric heated floor which goes down and around, so you can, as you're walking, you're not getting. So if you go off the beaten path, you're going to get cold feet. But if you keep on the
Yeah.
you can keep warm. So and it works quite well. And it's just thinking about it through and laying it. It's interesting stuff to lay as well because it comes in long rolls, and you can't cut the roll, so you have to use the whole roll up, which is quite interesting when you've got the minimum roll is I think the minimum roll I had was 1.5 meters, and the room actually was a meter square, that is, which actually means it's a 3 meter long roll because it's 500 centimeters wide, and the room was actually only 1 meter square. It's still tight because it's a tiny little bathroom.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to sort of wiggle bits of it around different bits of the room to try and use up all the space up on it, and couldn't just use it up flat and straight. But and then you've got to wiggle it around. Obviously, things like in a normal bathroom, you've got a toilet, so you have to wiggle it around the toilet, and so you can't lay the mat flat, and and obviously you can't cut through the connectors, so you've always got to keep the connection going always, and you've also got to maintain an earth layer as well, so you're constantly taking things together, which sounds a lot more difficult than it actually is. Once you get used to it, it's not too difficult to do it. But all the videos I saw on YouTube make it look so simple because they always have straight rooms and easy things. And
of course, yeah.
It's not easy when you've got lots of stuff in the way. So it's not the easiest thing to do, but once you get it down, it works really well. And obviously you need an electrician to wire it in because it's a notifiable thing to do. Putting an electric floor in, but other than that, it works really well. It's good stuff, and and it has worked really well. And now I'm just looking, obviously expanding on that idea of times and things like that. I'm new because I've got a whole house. I've got my own local LLM built in the house. It's running. I've got two actually running now. I've got Alarma running, and I've also got the CodeProject.AI running, which I'll talk about a bit in a minute. So I'm trying to integrate that with this heating control and getting it to learn our patterns. So like on a Sunday morning, it knows we go out to the park run, so we have to be up early. So it's going to turn the heating on early to allow it to be ready for when we get up. Whereas on a Saturday, we might lie a bit longer, so it's going to not get up quite so quickly, and various things like that. Also, they can couple with the presence detectors as well. One of us starts moving early, gets up early, then it can give a quick boost to the heat before you get downstairs. So even if it won't obviously get up to full warmth, it will take that edge off of it.
Yeah.
It's just that sort of intelligence built into it, which is quite good.
Yeah, that's quite good. Yeah, if it's aware of patterns and things like that.
Yeah. But the other thing I've been trying to do is improve the facial recognition. Because the AI I've got works reasonably well for facial recognition, but it's not 100% brilliant because it's not actually designed as facial. It's a general large language model. It's not meant as a image processing AI. So I've implemented, as I said, CodeProject.AI, and one of the things CodeProject.AI has is a face recognizer. It's specifically designed as face recognizer. You can train it on different faces, and it's good. It works really well. It's what I've been using. I've mentioned before, I use Blue Iris for my video surveillance system, and that's got face recognition on it, and that allows me to do certain things I can trigger based on that. But I wanted to go take that a step further and build that into Home Assistant a bit closer and have a direct link to CodeProject.AI. And I found a really nice plugin for Home Assistant called DoubleTake, which allows you to basically manage the face recognition across various different AIs. So you can use it with different providers of face recognition. And that integrates really nicely into Home Assistant. The challenge with it is it's kind of designed to work with another video recording system called Frigate, and it's been really tightly integrated in that. And I don't use Frigate, and I don't really want to use Frigate because I already use Blue Iris, so I don't really want to have to set up a second camera system, although it is very good. So I had to work out a different way of doing it. And I've mentioned it before, I've got a few Blink cameras, which I've been trying out for various things. but they don't provide a constant video stream, so you integrate those normally into any of these facial recognition systems because they always want a video stream. But what's really nice with DoubleTake is you can actually get it to process a still image. And by writing a little bit of automation, I've managed to capture whenever there's motion on the Blink camera, I capture a still image to a location which the DoubleTake can actually view, and now process it. And when you do that, you basically create a fake camera in DoubleTake, which is pointing to a still image URL, and it works. It picks that up, processes it, and what's really impressive, because this LLM is running on my little home assistant server. So the Odroid server, which is a bit like a Raspberry Pi, but not actually a modern Raspberry Pi. It's not that super powered, and it's running this LLM and doing all the face recognition locally on that device.
Right.
And it's working. I mean, it does sometimes crash and runs out of memory, so I'm going to work on that a little bit. But most of the time, it actually works, and it is actually picking up the faces, and it gives you a really nice sort of UI of what's going on. And what's quite clever is it shows you all the faces it recognised, and who it's recognised at them as, and what the percentage probability it thinks it is of that face. But if it's got the wrong face, or it's not quite going to match on it, you can retrain it. So you can just click on that image and tell it to train as somebody else, or an unknown face. You can then train it as who it is, all within that one interface, and it's really simple to use. And this has actually allowed me to replace something else we had in the house, which has become a real pain of late. We've used the Netatmo welcome camera for a very long time as just sort of a who's in the house type thing, almost like part of a security system. It picks up any unknown faces, we get an alert off of it. But it also tells us who's home and who's not home by just occasionally picking up stuff. But that's become over the last few year or so, the Netatmo stuff's become really unreliable. When the cameras just stop working left, right, and centre for some reason, and then when they get a firmware update, they don't seem to ever work again. So, and I'm sure there's things going on to try and work and fix this, but it got to the point where it was just not something we could rely on at all. And I've been able to replace that system, which was actually really good when it worked, which had built-in AI and all that stuff, but cloud-based AI, so it was all processing off premises and taking a lot of time to do it. And I've got that all local and basically protected. And it works even when the power's off because I've got the UPS working on it. It doesn't need internet to work. So it's
good. Yeah,
it feels much better as a security system now to have that available, and I can expand that. So I've got Blink cameras out in the garden. I've got Blink cameras scattered around, obviously using power using on just motion trapping, not doing any constant video recording. So the batteries last a while. And I've even got a Blink doorbell now on the studio, and no one's ever going to press the button to ring the doorbell, but it gives me that ability to have facial recognition as a better. I mean, I had facial recognition working coming up to the studio, but this is much better. It allows me to actually see very accurately who's walking to the door. I haven't had automation to do this before, basically based on me walking down the path, and it could actually detect it was me walking down the path by various things, but it wasn't 100% accurate. It was probably one in. Probably 8 out of 10 times it worked.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter in this because all it meant was that I have a blind across my door, and when I open the door, the first thing I have to do is open the blind to actually get past it because it actually blocks my entrance to the door. But what I had got in the automation was as I'm walking down the path, it opens the blind. And that, as I say, about 80% worked. It's now 100% with this Blink camera on the door doing this DoubleTake. It's absolutely 100%. It sees me coming towards the door, opens the blind before I get there, even before I've even unlocked the door. So that works really, really well, and it's just a nice, intelligent home type automation. It's just doing something you'd have to do manually and saving you a little bit of time, which is nice and very predictive. And it starts to learn things. One thing that really impressed me though the other day. I hadn't trained it to do this, and I'm still actually not quite sure how it managed to do this. But we had the electricians in doing some of the part of the renovations we're having on the house done, and it popped up that it had an unknown person on the stairs, and it said unknown person, possibly an electrician. And I couldn't figure out how it worked out. It was possibly an electrician, but I mean, maybe tool belt or whatever. But yeah, that was quite clever the way it did that. And so I hadn't actually trained it to do that, and I'm still not entirely sure how it actually managed to do that. So that's been quite good. Quite enjoyed that. The other thing I've been looking at, I've mentioned before, the Bermuda integration system, which is like a room presence detection, which is based on Bluetooth LE and Bluetooth. So you can basically pick up if you walk into a room, you do it. And I've done that previously on the little M5 stack devices. But I've got sent, I'm holding it kind of in my hand. I've been sent 2 of these, and I'm going to get enough light on this. But this is an ESP32 Geek from Waveshare. And the nice thing about this, really, you can see this, it's actually got a built-in screen.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can actually display information on this. So I've been using these as Bluetooth proxies now. I'm just plugging them up, and what it does is actually on the screen, it will tell you where everybody is. So the people, all the 4 people in the house have just got a little tag on the screen. It'll just say next to each tag, it will say which room they're actually in. And you can make it you can program it to do anything, and it's just picking up the information from Home Assistant. But so it's nice. It's actually got the proxy, and also something at a glance in any room you can just say, "Oh, Gary's downstairs in the studio. I can go find him," rather than having to ask Alexa or where I am, or look it up on the phone or whatever. You've just got it plugged in, and obviously it goes sideways, horizontal. But I think you can even make the text go vertical, and I might try that because this has actually got a built-in USB port. It's the bit down the bottom there is just the cover on the USB, so you can plug it into USB. And I've been plugging it into our little USB wall sockets just so it's sitting there and it sits out. But I'm thinking if I get an L-shaped USB adapter, I can just have it sticking upwards. And
you can have a little with the screen on. Yeah.
Screen on. But the other nice thing about this is it is a full ESP32 S3. It has got all the connectors on. And if you let's get the light. If you see, I don't know if you can see on the side, but it's got all the connectors on, and it actually comes with all the cables for your jumpers as well. So you can connect up all your sensors. You could connect it up to any type of sensor you wanted to do, fully built in, and the whole package is less than 20 quid with the screen built in and everything, and they're incredibly quick and powerful. And you have to remember, we were talking about the NS Panel Pro the other week, which is basically the device which I've got enough cable to show you, but just we did view this thing. That is actually running on the ESP32. So you can see how powerful they are, that you can actually do things like that. You can actually run quite complex displays using the ESP32s. And I'm getting quite into the idea of using these, because we're using ESPHome in Home Assistant. ESPHome is a program. It's basically a way of coding these with YAML code just to set up a flow for it. And the beauty of it is that you can take that and you can actually respond to inputs. So you can respond to obviously the inputs on the device. So you can program the GPI reports and put buttons on them or sensors or whatever and actually use those. But you can also respond to the external inputs. So you can use MQ2T, or in my case, I've got it very easily hooked up to Home Assistant, so it can actually read all Home Assistant commands, and that's quite powerful. You can also turn this into a voice assistant, because I think it's got microphone built into it. I'll double check that as well. It's got a lot of stuff built into it anyway. Or if it hasn't got microphone, you can plug a microphone into it. That'd be really easy to do. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. Actually, I think it's the other model which has got a microphone built in. This one you could just plug a microphone into it. So quite a powerful set of kits really to actually work with, and again, very cheap.
Yeah, I mean that's
incredibly cheap. These things.
If you're prepared to sort of do a bit of programming and stuff, then you can get that stuff really cheap, can't you?
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to use. It's not as, for me, it's pretty easy to use it. But so let me. I'll share my screen in a second.
Okay.
The viewers, rather than the listeners doesn't mean an awful lot to, but on here, this is ESPHome Builder and Home Assistant, and this is so hopefully you can cut and place some of that image when my audio wasn't working. I just don't know why screen shares and audio don't work for me at the moment, but basically it's just a set of commands to actually say do this and do that, and it's a little bit. It takes a bit of learning, but the great thing is that co-pilots and AIs of the world understand it really well. And
Right.
there's lots of really good documentation out there, so they've learned all about it, and it's fairly
Yeah.
static, so it doesn't change all the time. So if you want to do something, just ask one of the AIs, and it will work out a bit of script for you, and usually pretty well work. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's quite funny though. You couldn't ask Copilot. No, you couldn't ask OpenAI or ChatGPT today because they use Cloudflare.
Oh
and,
yes, yeah, good
Cloudflare was off.
good. Yeah, and Cloudflare's been causing a lot of issues today. Not just in what things you would think about. I mean, if you actually went to charge your EV today, you might have had problems because a lot of the interfaces for some of the chargers, I think Ionity was one of them, work with Cloudflare. So you weren't able to control the charges or use the apps to control the charges. So that was a bit of a problem.
Yeah, and I've seen some B2B type stuff stop working because the APIs, the published APIs, they use Cloudflare to protect the APIs.
Yeah.
So your application looks like it's working fine, but it's not talking to the outside world, or the outside world's not talking to it because the Cloudflare APIs keep doing. Yeah. So yeah, it's quite a bit of an outage. It wasn't too long, but it was a good hour or so, wasn't it? And the number of sites that was affected by that.
Yeah. And for once it wasn't DNS.
Yes.
Actually, all the outages have been DNS based recently, but this was something to do with their bot configuration, which is interesting. They're using bots anyway. But yeah, they messed up. I mean, actually, I have to say, I was actually really impressed with their, I think, CEO's statement on the issue. It was like a really come clean. It's our fault. We got it wrong. We're going to try and fix it, but we let you all down basically.
Yeah.
Not high,
it is. But you were talking about earlier about having the local system, and that is a benefit of having a local system. We have a similar thing with the plugins world with the music stuff. There's two sort of ways of doing it. There's some that you buy. There's an authentication when you buy it. And then, or you sign in once and it's kind of approved and it works on your machine. That's where the Korg ones work. Roland Cloud works on a constant sort of authentication. After so many days, it has to re-authenticate. And if there's ever issues with the cloud connections, then the things just stop working. So, all these things that you've been paying for can just be stop working as it's a cloud-based service with authentication and everything, and then you're really stuck. So that's all I think a consideration when you're doing anything, whether it be plugins for your studio or home automations. You've got to sort of take that into account. But of course, a lot of the things, like I said, I think Arlo was affected by the Cloudflare one, but you don't choose. You don't choose to use Cloudflare, do you? If you're an Arlo customer, that's just what they use in the background. And not that there's anything wrong with Cloudflare. It's one of those things. We have the same thing with Amazon Web Services or Microsoft's Azure. You don't, as a customer, you don't pick any of those really, do you? But there's only a few services that are available, and if they go down, then so I suppose choosing especially for home security that you were talking about earlier, that's where a local system definitely has its advantage over anything too cloud-based, because you're at the mercy of the cloud. And we talked about hardware getting sort of made obsolete just because the service doesn't work anymore, the cloud service that goes with it.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if I bought a synthesizer and you had to pay £8 a month to use it, and then they said, "Oh no, we're not supporting that anymore." It wouldn't happen, but it did happen with the smart home plugs. That you have to pay a service, and then eventually they just stopped that, and that was it, done. Device in the bin.
Which is a concern, isn't it? I mean, it's interesting to talk about devices in the bin. I mean, probably won't be in this case, but I don't know if you've seen that Roomba, the originators of robot vacuums, are in serious financial trouble, and there's
are they? Yeah.
Possibility they may actually go bankrupt. And you think, well, if they've got cloud services for their latest vacuums, and they should if that happens. So it's always a worry, isn't it?
Yeah. If they go, then that's your 300, 400 pound, or even they're quite expensive, the Roomba ones. It's just junk unless you can open it up and sort of reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definite. Definite interesting. We are very dependent on the cloud services now, aren't we, for everything?
And it's a challenge. I mean, there's so many things out there, and you do wonder what's going. I mean, and I was watching the Google CEO the other day, actually today, I think, on the news, and they were talking about the fact that there's this potential AI bubble. If it bursts, then a lot of these companies are going to be in serious trouble because they've invested so much money in AI and it's funded by the investment they're getting from the shareholders. And if they pull funding, they've got lots of costs to match, and some of the players could potentially disappear. And you think, if say something like that happened to AWS, they just vanished to the face of the earth all of a sudden. I mean, the impact on something like that would be incredible. Earth shattering.
Yeah, it takes one of the to providers to say it's not economical anymore, so they're pulling the plug, and that's it.
And I mean, okay, maybe not on that scale, but that happens all the time. The cloud providers pull services all the time, and you suddenly think, oh, hang on, that search engine I've relied on just suddenly disappeared, or the image processing I've relied on just suddenly disappeared, and there's you often very little notice on it, and challenging to get across to something new. You wonder if there should be actually legal protections against that. Maybe there should be some escrow protections in place so that services can be maintained and carry on, at least for a little while.
And I'll tell you one thing that definitely isn't got any problems with or issues with cloud services is one of the videos I did last week was a back to basics program on analog monosynth, and this was using my 1978 Gen SX 1000. No cloud services with that. There's no special accounts in here. There's no username and password combinations. It's just turning those dials. There's no memory. There's no patch programming. It's just turn the dials, make the sound, and that's it. So that's a little video that I did last week. I thought I'd do sort of a back to basics pro, because I've done some quite advanced ones. So I thought I'll do a back to basics one that goes into the basics of synthesis, and you can't get more basics than my little trusty Gen SX 1000 from 1978. But it's a great synth for learning because it's got the basic building blocks. You've got an oscillator, a filter, amplifier, each with its own envelopes, and it's very clearly laid out. So actually, it's a nice simple one. So definitely no worry about cloud services with that one. It's not even got MIDI or any interface on it at all or whatever. It's just plug it in and you start playing and it works. So that was one of the videos that I posted last week. The other things I've been working on, I've got a couple of sound packs. So I talked about the 3300 last week with Dan Phillips from Korg. So I have done a sound pack for the 3300. So you don't have to buy the £50,000 real hardware one. However, you can use the virtual version from the Korg collection. So that's a set of free sounds.
I'm sure Dan would like you to buy the
So it's a really great synth program. So I really enjoyed doing that. Really different way of programming. So I've got a free set of those. And the other thing I've done is a set of sounds for the Multipoly, all based on the Korg DW8000, which is the wavetable synth that I've got over here in front of me. And because the wavetables from the DW8000 are in the Multipoly, I've managed to recreate them. So I've put them side by side, headphones on, and I've recreated the factory patches and some of the custom patches from the DW8000 here on the Multipoly, and that's available as a set. So I think I created 70 performances and 70 programs for that as well. So if you're hankering after that hybrid digital synth sound from the mid-80s, 85 I think it was, then you can get those on the Multipoly. That was great fun. That really, I've done quite a few recreations, but having the original old synth in front of me as well was made it really fun, because I could actually do it in my headphones and get the balance exactly right as well. So the full set of sounds available. There's a free pack and the full pack as well. So I've got more tutorials that I'm working on. A couple I've done recently, like mod processors and filter guides and things like that. So I've got plenty more I'll still be working on. I am going to be doing another tutorial on the basic programming of a polysynth. So I'm going to use my Korg MIDI log that's over there, and got a video on that one coming up soon as well. And I also got an idea for a Christmas quiz of guess the synth type thing, because I've got a few different ones. So I think I'll be working on something like that for Christmas.
Excellent.
So have you got any other gadgets you wanted to talk about?
So I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. This is this Sonoff Zigbee Mini Extreme, I think they call it, which is because it's pretty tiny and it's always meant to fit in the box. And it's a Zigbee, I think, based controller, which is quite good. So one thing I hadn't realised about this is that it's quite unusual. So this is obviously, if you see it's got live in, live out, and it's also got two switch connectors. And it's actually unusual in that with the wiring on this, you can have a 0-volt connection between the switches. So it's literally just a switch between them. Yeah. Or you can actually have a switch going back to live, which is quite an interesting concept. I've not seen that before, where you can actually have the ability to have a power going through the switch, or not having power going through the switch, which makes it quite easy to wire in to stuff, which is quite nice as well. So you don't have to really change your. There's a lot of these things when you're putting something like this in place, you're kind of changing your wiring's flow, because you're putting the switch, or you might have to have a different type of switch to make it work. Whereas this works with basically with the standard sort of paddle switches you got. Yeah, so I think that's quite clever. I hadn't realised that. And obviously being Zigbee as well, it knows the state of the switch, so you could use this without actually putting anything on the live out. So you could just have power coming through it and use that as a transmission media, basically, to say use this as a controller. So have a switch somewhere and actually just use it to then control other Zigbee stuff. So that's definitely an interesting concept. I should be exploring that one more. I've got a few things to try and sort out on things. And so it's kind of interesting, all this stuff. I've been sort of looking into how you can use dimmers and other things, and I found a few different controllers I hadn't really realised around, or interesting options. So I don't know if you've come across Kinetic switches. So these are basically the act of pressing the button generates a small electrical charge, and you can actually then use that as a transmitter to send a message to a receiver. So you can have a wall switch somewhere with no batteries or anything in it, and you literally just press it and it sends a signal across to another switch somewhere else. So if you're trying to add an extra switch in for a lighting circuit and you don't want to run wires to do it, you could just use one of these and then wire it in the other end. And I hadn't actually realised that there's now a whole set of Kinetic dimmers as well as just on-off switches. So that's quite an interesting concept. You can actually have a dimmer switch which works on Kinetic and actually then sends the signal across. So they're now starting to come in lots of more different designs as well. So it's becoming quite an interesting concept. But what was also interesting, this used to be really proprietary. The transmitter and receiver was just a wireless system, but they're now actually doing receivers which then translate to, say, a Zigbee band. So you can then use the switch to actually trigger Zigbee events as well. So there's lots of nice little things on this as well. So I think that's quite powerful, and I'm going to do a bit more investigating into that to see how, because the idea of something passive and you're not having to change the battery is quite a attractive situation, because I'm constantly changing batteries and things around the house.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So, so they use like their own, it's a remote control for a switch.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's a remote control switch which doesn't need a battery because it's self-powering from the motion, basically. So,
Right. Yeah, that's even better. Yeah.
using the kinetic energy, hence the name.
Yeah.
So,
That's an interesting trick. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I'm really interested to sort of explore more how to utilize that. So yeah, definitely looking into that. I think one of the sad things I think in the current smart home market is the lack of deco type faceplates on UK plugs and sockets and switches. One of the obviously back in the day we were using things like Lightwave RF, and they always came with really nice decorative switches. So you could have your gold, your bronzes, your brasses, your stainless steel, your chrome finishes. That's really difficult to find these days. Most of them come in plain old white, which is a bit of a challenge. Although I did spray paint one not so long ago with fireproof with fire resistant paint. So but yeah, that was to give it the right sort of finish. But yeah, it's not. It's slightly disappointing we don't have those other finishes available. The other thing I did actually plumb this one in. We talked again about this on the show. Find this one. This is another Sonoff switch, which is maybe a bit in focus on my camera, but this is a Zigbee smart switch, no neutral required, so it's really good for the UK. It's really difficult to think about these boxes. And I did show this the other day, but I plumbed this in, and it looks really cool on the wall. I mean, it is white plastic, but I think it's just a really nice sort of design. It just doesn't look like a normal switch.
Yeah.
And it's a click switch, so you click it on and off. But again, I mentioned this last time, but I'm quite intrigued. If you actually look at the back of this, you can see it's actually got effectively one of those devices I've just shown you plumbed into it. So
that's what it is. Yeah,
you can replace it. So it's literally just a clicker for one of those. So it's quite interesting to see how that's been done. But yeah, that's quite an interesting. I quite like that though, because often you get these built-in switches and sometimes the mechanism inside them goes, and it's you throw the switch away basically. Whereas this one you could I think you could push this bit out and actually replace it. So that would be really good. I haven't actually proved that yet, but it looks like you should be able to. So yeah, but I think it's kind of cool. But yeah, I was just surprised how nice that looks like, because it's quite flat and then it sort of kind of disappears into the wall. It's quite a very modern looking. So yeah, definitely. I think one of the nice things that they've done, or Sonoff have done recently, is that they come up with some less utilitarian looking switches. A lot of the original smart switches were very non-European. I think I would describe them as sort of very 1950s almost design.
Yeah.
And maybe fit quite nicely in some of the American homes where the switches tend to be a little bit more industrial. Although they are changing and they are getting a bit more stylish. But yeah, it's nice to see some better designs, and that worked really well. I have to say that paired really nicely with Home Assistant, paired with Smart Things. That's everything you can think of. This, I mean, it actually says in the box it only has pairs with their own server, but their UE link hub. But it worked perfectly fine with all those other devices. So I'm very impressed with that. So that's good. I mean, it's just there's always something trying to find something. If one thing which might be interesting to our listeners and viewers is the current move on IKEA's part. They've been very much in the Zigbee sphere up to now with their not home stuff, but they are moving fully over to Matter over Thread. So they're actually going to get rid of a lot of they're selling a lot of their Zigbee devices off very cheaply at the moment. So it's worth an eye out if you're in the market with Zigbee switches. And I've got a lot of Zigbee stuff in here which came from IKEA. Quite expensive at the time, the blinds and things like that. But there's things like little switches I used for controlling the blinds are coming down very rapidly in price too. So they're quite good. And they are really nice little controller switches for just controlling things. By which I'll just grab one and show you. So these actually have magnetic mounts in the back, so you can take off. But you can see it's a nice little tiny switch. and that's basically for curtain blind control because it's got up and down, but you can use it for anything. It's just a Zigbee switch, and with magnetic belt on it, so you can put it where you want to, which is quite nice. So yeah, so I even actually carry one of those in my pocket, which I use with triggering certain things around the house.
Yeah, because it's just as a trigger switch.
Trigger switch, yeah. I haven't quite worked out how to put one on a keyring, but I'm sure I could figure that out. Yeah. But they've got some quite good stuff on there. So worth a look at if you're in the market for anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. How you're getting on with the EV world? Got any videos up on your channel?
I've been terrible at putting videos up. I've got some stuff to show. I did some videoing at the latest Everything Electric a few weeks ago. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting show. Lots of good tech there. They had every EV under the sun on display. I can't really let that pass though without mentioning the sad news we heard about Quentin Willson.
Yes, yeah.
So Quentin, I've met a few times at Everything Electric. He was very enthusiastic about electric cars, unusual for carping, but lovely person. So sad to see him pass away so young.
Very quickly, yeah.
Very quickly, yeah. I was only talking to him at the previous Everything Electric show a few months ago. So and we had actually lined him up for an interview at the show, but unfortunately that was never going to happen. It's very sad.
Yeah. I always liked him on the old Top Gear. He was very good on that.
But yeah, other than that, I haven't really put anything up on the video channel. I will do. I've got some really good stuff planned. And to be honest, with the home build going on at the moment, I've been doing a kind of mini grand designs around that, recording that. So I've spent a lot of my energy on editing and recording, doing that.
Right. Oh, that'd be interesting to see. I look forward to that.
Well, I mean, I may not publish as much as that, but the main reason for doing it is because I've got two young kids, and I want them to have a history of what happened to their house, so that they'll only just really remember this a little bit. So it'd be nice to actually show them what they looked like before, what actually changed, and building.
It's always nice to document that stuff, even if it's just taking photos and things, just to see. Because you think you can remember it, but as time goes by, it's nice that I think when we did our kitchen, I didn't do a lot of video, but I did a lot of pictures. So before they started and when they were in there, and no one's really interesting, but it's nice for the family to see the. I mean,
there are some definitely grand design moments along this one. There's been some interesting challenges along the way.
Oh, did you go over budget and over time? And that's
we've definitely gone over budget and over time.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of that's not been our fault. As the often is on the contract. It's things like not being able to get the scaffolding off site and stuff like that, which have caused lots of delays. And then when we had the granite worktops due to be delivered, some of the bits of those have got broken in transit, so we had to get those changed and things like that, which pushed it back on time. And it's just been discoveries of things like I think I mentioned some on the shows, but we were due to take part of a wall down and put some supports into it and use the rest of the wall again, and then discovered when they took the wall down, it was actually made of cardboard. So I mean, this was quite common in houses built in the late 90s, in the last century. It's weird to say that, but the walls actually were done with almost corrugated cardboard inside them. So it was a cheap way of doing interior walls, but they're not structural. You can't do anything with them. So basically, you had to replace the whole wall, and that was a big expense to do that, and that was totally unexpected.
And then, of course, you think the thing, well, we decided to up the spec as we went along, because that's what they all do.
We've done that in a few places as well. Yeah, putting underfloor heating in, which wasn't in the original spec, and things like that. So in a few places, upgrading the flooring and stuff like that. So it's been fun. But yeah, what is interesting is the technology I've been putting in as well. So we've obviously got the underfloor heating stuff going in. I've mentioned also that I'm doing LED lighting, using WLED lighting, which is quite nice. You think about LED lighting for kitchens, you think, well, what's the point of doing something like a WLED implementation? You don't want flashing lights and stuff in the kitchen. But what is really nice about it is you can control segments of the LED. So although you might think RGB, BIC, individually addressable lights, it's fun for Christmas and stuff like that, and you can obviously do patterns on for that. But actually, practical use, if you can actually use presence sensors to say, this is the area of the kitchen I'm actually working in. Fix the light in that area and dim the lights in the rest of the area. So if you're working at night, you can just have one area where you can concentrate on what you're doing around you. So you're cutting up on the worktop, and it's just illuminating that bit brightly, but the rest of the worktop isn't as illuminated, so it's the mood, so to speak. So it's quite good that I think it's going to be, and to the point now we're having tried it out and it looks really good. It's expanding it. So one of the things we haven't got architrave around the top of the room at all. So I'm actually going to put LED quadrant in all around the room now as a sort of like the border between the walls and the ceiling, and that's going to be just again using the WLED stuff, so you can control that and zone light, and effectively do follow me lighting as well. So I've mentioned before the presence sensors, the wave based presence sensors. Most of those allow you to do distance of sense. So if you have a sensor down one end of the room, you can see how far away you are from that sensor. So it's like I've got one in the office here and the studio here, but this studio is quite long and thin, so I can zone it by just having one sensor which is way down that way, and it knows which part of the room I'm actually in, and it brightens the lights where I'm sitting. And if I happen to move down the light, it would dim the lights here and brighten the lights down there. So it's quite good on that respect, and simple, and makes it pretty simple in automations. So you can imagine like a corridor. If you walk down the corridor at night, you can actually work out where you are on the corridor, and just have the lights gradually follow you down the corridor. So you're not disturbing. You're only putting light around you, not disturbing everybody else potentially.
Yeah. I like that idea. That's a good idea, though.
Yeah, so there are practical uses of the segmented lighting as well as the more fun things you can do.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. Well, I look forward to reading or watching or whatever however you decide to
I am going to do some of the on the Fascinating Tech channel. I'll be definitely putting some of the smart home stuff in place and showing how that's all worked. Some bits and pieces I've been doing over the time, particularly around the presence sensing, because I think that's actually really powerful what you can do with that. Who's in the room and control panels and stuff like that. Also the very neat way I've got of actually having Home Assistant running on a Echo display, Amazon Echo display, which I will definitely document, because that's quite fun.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah. Well, it's been great to catch up. Just let us know where we can find your stuff then.
Well, on YouTube, obviously the EV Owner channel, also the Fascinating Tech channel, which hasn't got much content on at the moment, but will have.
Yeah, so we'll wait for that.
That's definitely what I'm intending to build up, and you can find me on all the social medias. Garry WMA is usually my tag on most things.
Excellent stuff. Well, it was great catching up with you, and I think if I remember rightly, we'll be back with this format show in a couple of weeks' time. I think we've got a guest next week, so they'll be back in a couple of weeks' time.
Cool. I have more things to talk about by then.
Yeah, excellent. Right, we'll see you then.
Take care.